Have you felt that deep fatigue settling into your bones? The weariness of constantly pushing, forcing, and wrestling with every aspect of your life? You hustle against the clock, bite back doubts, marshal your energy to meet endless expectations, from work deadlines to personal growth mantras to keeping relationships afloat. You cajole yourself into decisions, cling to routines that have long since lost meaning, and brace against each new challenge. Yet the harder you grip, the more everything seems to slip through your grasp, like water, like sand, like life itself dissolving between your fingers. Enter Wu Wei, the Taoist principle Alan Watts brought into Western thought as action without force. Don't confuse it with passivity or surrender. Wu Wei is the ultimate blend of wisdom and courage. It's moving in step with the pulse of the world rather than battling its current. Imagine a dancer who doesn't wrestle with the music but lets each beat guide their body, or a surfer who doesn't strive to conquer the ocean but finds the perfect moment to rise with its swell. This is not giving up. It's giving into a deeper form of mastery, learning when to push, when to pause, and when to let circumstances unfold. In the next section, we'll explore how to cultivate Wu Wei in your daily life, so you can transform that exhausting struggle into a flow of effortless resilience. Pause for a moment and consider, how many times today have you tried to force what simply wasn't ready? How often have you blamed yourself for failing to control what, by its very nature, lies beyond your grasp? How many choices have you made out of fear? Fear of losing status, of looking weak, of not doing enough. From childhood, we're drilled to believe that success demands unrelenting effort, that we must push forward even when every fiber of our being begs for reprieve. The result? We grow into anxious, restless adults, estranged from our own lives, never having learned the art of letting go, of observing, of trusting. Wu Wei doesn't mean doing nothing. It means acting with awareness, grace, and respect for the natural timing of things. It's trading the frantic rower who exhausts himself battling the river's flow for the seasoned sailor who trims his sails to catch the wind. Instead of charging headlong at every obstacle, you learn to pause, and in that pause, you align with forces far greater than your individual striving. Alan Watts captured it perfectly. When you stop forcing life's currents, a kind of magic unfolds. Doors you never even saw swing open, new paths reveal themselves, and answers emerge, not because you uncovered them through sheer willpower, but because you finally gave them the space to come forward. If you're hearing this now, it may be because you're tired of the struggle, because deep within you something is whispering that there's a better way, a quieter, more authentic, effortlessly aligned way to live, one that honors both your will and the world's own unfolding. Yet for many of us, these ancient teachings feel distant, unreachable ideals from cultures far removed from our own Western obsession with logic, efficiency, and measurable outcomes. That's where Alan Watts comes in, the bridge between East and West we've all been waiting for. Born in England in 1915, Watts didn't arrive as a cloistered scholar or a peddler of obscure doctrines. He was a spirited provocateur, a relentless questioner of Western assumptions. He saw that our greatest barrier wasn't geography or language, but fear, the Cartesian urge to control, to master life, to cling to certainty at all costs. Watts swept aside dogma and goal-centered thinking with an effortless ease. His lectures weren't dry lectures, they were living conversations, infused with wry humor and personal insight. He didn't hand you a how-to guide for peace or promise you instant enlightenment. Instead, he unraveled the very questions we think we understand, tugging away the masks until we stumbled, blinked, and finally felt something real. He showed us that Tao and Zen aren't exotic relics. They're urgent remedies for our fragmented, overstimulated world. Peace, meaning, and fulfillment aren't forged in relentless striving or heroic effort. They're discovered in the quiet courage to let reality unfold, to align ourselves with life's natural rhythm. Watts translated the untranslatable, the wind of Tao, the stillness of Zen, the simplicity of Wu Wei, into everyday language that resonated with anyone tired of chasing benchmarks and bruised by the tyranny of results. He reminded us that wisdom can't be grasped like a prize. It must be lived and felt in every breath, every pause, every moment of unforced presence. In the next chapter, we'll dive into Watts's life and teachings, exploring how his own journey can open a new door within you, one that leads not to more control, but to a deeper freedom. Watts didn't drape his talks in academic drudgery. He told us stories, he painted vivid images, he likened life to a river that flows on its own rhythm, sometimes gentle, sometimes roaring, but always moving. He spoke of the sailor who doesn't wrestle the sea, but instead adjusts her sails to let the wind guide her course. And he compared existence to a piece of music. It isn't won by hurrying to the final note, but by dancing through each measure, feeling every rise and fall, every pause and crescendo, without the clutching grip of anxiety. What Watts cut through was our cultural myth that life is a relentless dash. He reminded us that life is a dance, and Wu Wei, the art of non-forcing, is the hidden melody we've long since tuned out. He was the voice that dared his generation to rethink the very definition of living well. He knew that as long as we chase victory, treating each moment as a hurdle to clear, we're destined to feel perpetually defeated. Yet Watts never merely recited ancient texts. He spoke to the invisible wounds we all carry, the isolation of modern existence, the existential dread that so often lurks beneath our polished facades, the ache of feeling unmoored from the present. He cautioned that intellectual agreement with Wu Wei does little good if our daily lives remain a tug-of-war against reality. It's one thing to nod along when you hear the idea of letting go, quite another to live it under pressure, to resist the urge to micromanage every outcome, to trust that sometimes the wisest action is patient surrender. In the next chapter, we'll dive deep into Watts's central river metaphor, how it exposes the root of our self-imposed suffering and, paradoxically, lights the path to true liberation. Get ready to see your life reflected in those waters for the first time. Close your eyes and picture a wide, powerful river, its waters surging with an ancient momentum, sweeping along stones, drifting leaves, half-submerged logs, and darting fish, carving its way through the landscape with effortless might. Now imagine someone waist-deep in that current, flailing to swim upstream. Each stroke feels like a desperate fight against an invisible wall. Every muscle strains, every breath comes in ragged gasps, and still the river pulls them farther from the shore. Their arms ache, their chest heaves, panic sets in, and the harder they struggle, the more the flow drags them into deeper danger until exhaustion overwhelms them and the dream of rest feels impossibly distant. Alan Watts used this very scene to expose the heart of human suffering. We assume pain springs from life's setbacks, losing a job, a relationship ending, a cherished plan falling apart. But the real agony is rarely rooted in events themselves. It blossoms from our resistance to what is. Like clutching at water, we grasp at vanished moments, replay old expectations, and refuse to yield to the river's course. Watts taught that, just as the river follows its own innate intelligence, life too flows according to rhythms we cannot command. True freedom and relief arrives not by battling the current, but by learning when to release our grip, trusting that by aligning with life's pulse, we can move forward with grace rather than waste ourselves in unending struggle. You don't have to muscle your way through life, nor should you try. Real mastery lies in learning to trust the current. That doesn't mean you lie down and do nothing. It means you move in concert with forces far greater than your own will, like a surfer reading the swell rather than wrestling the sea. When you fight what is, you manufacture tension in your body, your mind, your spirit, and you wage a war against life, others, and yourself. The outcome? Chronic anxiety, simmering resentment, the hollow ache of helplessness. All the while you sense you're drowning, yet the fear of releasing control feels more terrifying than the struggle itself. But the river teaches a different possibility. By letting go, you don't disappear. You finally find yourself. You discover that life's current can be your ally, carrying you to shores your plans never dared to chart. Embracing the unknown takes real courage. The courage to relinquish the safety net of micromanagement, to stand poised between what you hope for and what unfolds. This isn't just spiritual idealism. It's an urgent necessity for our time. From childhood, we've been schooled to compete, to dominate, to force every outcome, only to wind up exhausted and empty. In the next section, we'll uncover how Western culture has built an invisible prison of control and effort, a mindset that eats away at our vitality. We'll trace your fatigue back to its roots and point the way toward a life lived in flow, where effort and ease exist side by side. Get ready to see why your struggle isn't your strength and what truly needs to change so you can begin to live. Since you were a child, you've been fed slogans like, "Don't give up," "Winners make their own luck," and "The world rewards the relentless." You absorbed the idea that if you ever let up, if you paused your planning, your fixing, your pushing, disaster would strike. You might not see it yet, but that creed has become an invisible cage, a constant hum of tension, ambition masquerading as fear, anxiety painted over with determination. Alan Watts saw this neurosis for what it was: a Western civilization that worships effort and control to such extremes that its people spend their lives sprinting blindfolded, never pausing to ask where they're racing to. We live in cultures that idolize never-ending productivity, relentless learning, ever higher goals, treating life as a project to be optimized down to its last second. In that manic chase, you drift farther from yourself until you're a stranger in your own days. Maybe you felt it, putting in the hours, checking off every box, and still waking to an ache of emptiness, as though something vital has slipped away. And that missing piece? It's your lost connection to life's natural flow, the Tao, the way that can't be wrangled or tamed, only lived. But a mind schooled in control recoils from that truth. It trembles at the thought of the unplanned, the unguaranteed, the uncharted. So it builds stifling routines and rigid targets, strategies meant to banish every spark of uncertainty. Yet no amount of structure can still the river's current. The more you try to eliminate surprise, the more you lose touch with the currents that carry real life, joy, creativity, authentic connection. In the next section, we'll explore how this obsession with control fractures your spirit and what it takes to break free so you can stop managing existence and start experiencing it again. Uncertainty is woven into the very fabric of life. Mystery is what gives existence its sparkle. When you clamp down to banish every surprise, you also squeeze out the magic, the unplanned moments that make your heart race. Alan Watts put it like this: the more we try to control life, the more we cut ourselves off from it. It's like trapping a flower's perfume in a sealed jar. You preserve its shape, but lose its soul. What you end up with is a robotic, joyless routine where even your emotions, your friendships, and your wildest dreams are processed on an assembly line of checklists and metrics. But there is another path, one that liberates you from these invisible shackles without demanding you shirk responsibility. In the next section, we'll dive into how to wield Wu Wei in the chaos of modern life, a world that screams for speed, even as it starves for presence. You'll see that doing less is no sign of weakness, but the mark of true wisdom, and that moving with less force can actually carry you farther than brute effort ever could. Talking about Wu Wei in the abstract can feel poetic, but living it amidst ceaseless demands, buzzing notifications, and endless to-dos, that's the real test. It won't come from dropping everything and retreating to a mountainside. There's a crucial distinction between non-effort and apathy. Wu Wei is deeply engaged action, born from awareness, attention, and attunement to what's alive in the moment, not from frantic attempts to force outcomes that lie beyond your grasp. In practice, Wu Wei begins with a simple act of humility, acknowledging you don't steer the universe. There are forces at play far bigger than your willpower. Your power isn't in fighting them, it's in learning to listen, in feeling the current beneath your feet, in dancing in step with life's own rhythm. When you do, resistance dissolves, and you discover a clarity, a peace, and a sense of vitality you never thought possible. This begins with a single deliberate breath. It means pausing to observe before you react, stopping the reflex to scramble forward out of fear you'll be left behind. In everyday life, Wu Wei is about choosing quality over quantity, depth over haste. It's having the courage to pause, to say no to the endless parade of tasks and obligations that feed an ego starved for approval. It's turning down the volume of outside demands long enough to hear your own quiet inner guide, the whisper you've ignored in your rush. Wu Wei also means trusting life's own rhythms, knowing there are seasons of action, times to bloom, and seasons of retreat, times to rest. Yet our culture, hypnotized by perpetual growth, brands any pause as failure. Watts reminds us that just as winter's cold is essential to spring's bloom, so too your moments of stillness are the groundwork for true flourishing. To practice Wu Wei today is to rebel against the collective anxiety that tells you you're never enough, never fast enough, never doing enough. Instead, you reclaim the abundance woven into every breath and every step. You remember that simply being in harmony with life's flow is not only enough, it is complete. But embodying Wu Wei takes constant vigilance, because your old programming, control, haste, excess, will tug at you the moment you pause. It will murmur, "You're falling behind. Do more, achieve more, prove more." In those moments lies your true turning point. Will you slip back into resistance, or will you dare to trust life's flow? That decision is the spark of radical transformation. In the next section, we'll explore what happens the instant you stop forcing, and how everything shifts once you embrace the silent power of conscious surrender. There comes a time when you must choose. Continue battling the current until mind and body give out, or finally let go, accepting that life isn't a contest to be won, but a mystery to be lived. Watts captured this beautifully. True change doesn't arrive through sheer will. It emerges the moment you cease resisting what's already seeking to unfold within you. When you stop forcing, you create space. Space for the unexpected, for opportunities you never could have scripted. Space to reconnect with your intuition, your body, and the gentle undercurrent of the Tao that's guided you even when you felt most lost. Freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's aligning so deeply with life that your actions flow naturally from what's real and necessary. It's creating without urgency, loving without fear, being without performance. This shift won't come overnight. It demands practice, inner awareness, and the courage to face those old impulses that, under stress, will try to drag you back into futile struggle. But now you know you have a choice. So before you go, pause and ask yourself, where in your life are you forcing the hardest right now? Where do you feel you're swimming upstream against a current that simply needs acceptance or gentle guidance? Share your biggest struggle in the comments. Your insight could be the guide someone else on this path needs. Sometimes, simply seeing what's been driving you is itself a monumental stride toward freedom. If this has stirred something within you, if you feel the spark of awareness, you can't afford to stop here. The next video isn't just more of the same, it's the critical next step on your path. You've glimpsed the idea of moving with life's flow. Now you'll learn how to live with genuine presence, lightness, and intentional awareness. Keep watching, because the transformation you long for has already begun. It's time to bring it into full expression. See you in the next video.